Good morning, Jesus Center. We're praying this vitamin boost brings timely encouragement into your life today and enlightens and empowers you to be the amazing person God made you to be. We love you.
Today, I want to speak on the subject of the longing. The longing. When it comes to experiencing God in prayer, it all begins with longing. Experiencing God begins with longing. The reason why we thirst for water is because we are made up of water. And the reason why we thirst for God is because we've been made in God's image, or we've been made with divine substance. So we desire the divine. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, we read that God breathed into humanity His breath. So we have a spirit. And because we have a spirit, our spirit longs for His spirit. Our spirit longs for God's spirit. I noticed that the animals, they don't just sit around longing for God. They long for lunch, but they don't long for God. But for us, we have, yes, physical appetites. We have sensual appetites. We have sexual appetites as just being human beings. And yet we also have a longing from our spirit for God's spirit. And this spiritual longing, it cannot be satisfied by anything that's physical or material. And it cannot be satiated by success. It can only be satisfied by God. Our spirit was made for communion, and communion speaks of a deep, satisfying relationship. And I'm talking about a communion with God. That's what our spirits were made for. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11, it says that God has set eternity in the human heart. So that reveals that the human heart is made of eternal substance, and therefore it has eternal longings. I just want to say that one more time. The human heart is made of eternal substance and therefore has eternal longings. So these eternal longings cannot be satisfied by temporary thrills and earthly fills. It just can't. I think maybe if we were made of dirt and God didn't breathe into us His breath and put a spirit into us, maybe just the physical substances and activities would satisfy. Yet I think we have something more. We're more than just matter. We have a spirit. And I think when we feel empty, and a lot of us, we know what it's like to feel empty, we then chase after the things that make us feel less empty. Isn't that true? And what do we chase after when we feel empty? I mean, the list is exhaustive, and I bet if we put our list together, we could come up with maybe 1,000 different things that we chase after when we feel empty. But the reason why nothing on that list, let's just say there's 1,000 things on that list, why nothing on that list could ever satisfy our spirit's longing is because it's not God. It's not God. About 300 years ago, Blaise Pascal, he wrote a book in defense of Christianity. And in that book, he has this quote that says, humanity tries in vain to fill his soul with everything around him, though none can help. Since this eternal abyss, he calls our spirit an eternal abyss, because this eternal abyss can only be filled and satisfied with an infinite and immutable object. In other words, by God Himself. So we see that we have an eternal abyss. And, if we keep chasing all the other stuff on that list, it often leads to bondage. But when we chase after God and we find Him and we get to know His heart and we can finally see ourselves through His eyes. We come to know His heart and we can finally see ourselves through His eyes. That leads to freedom. That is incredibly liberating. And by trying to fill the longing of our soul with just these temporary fills and the earthly thrills, it's like, I'm just picturing a little bonfire here. And when we're trying to satisfy that eternal abyss or that emptiness with the things of this world, it's like taking another stick and throwing it into the fire. It didn't quench the fire. It only infuriates the fire. And I don't know about you, but I've tried to fill the hole in my soul, with a lot of different things. And I find that those things sometimes only accentuate my emptiness. rather than satisfying my heart.
Thanks for listening to today's Vitamin Boost. Have a love-filled day, and we hope to connect here again tomorrow.